So the Pedder Galaxid was first discovered in the 1960s from the Serpentine catchment that included the original Lake Pedder and a nearby lake, Lake Maria. Used to inhabit the marshes and the stream and the Lake Pedder itself, the original Lake Pedder that is. Damming of the Serpentine catchment and the Huon catchment back in 1972 for hydropower generation resulted in major changes to the physical environment of the area and also the ecology of the species that live there, that included the Pedder Galaxid. The consequences of this was rather dire for the Pedder Galaxid, as we saw introduced species such as brown trout and a closely related Galaxid species, a climbing Galaxid, that were introduced into the area through flooding. Not until the point of the Galaxid population began to crash, the conservation efforts stepped up. Initially that involved monitoring or looking a whole range of sites and collected 80-odd Galaxids in 1 year. 68 of those Galaxids essentially came from 2 streams. And in the 3 years after that particular survey, between 1993 and 1996, just 4 Pedder Galaxids were found in that whole time. So as you can see, the population basically crashed within a couple of years. Captive breeding trials were undertaken as part of the conservation efforts, but unfortunately met with mixed success and only ended up with 11 juvenile fish out of the program. As the breeding program essentially didn't meet its goals, those 11 fish were translocated to Lake Oberon along with the 7 adult fish used in the program as one of the last conservation efforts to save the species. Between 1993 and 1996, monitoring was undertaken of the Lake Oberon population, but unfortunately we couldn't find any fish. In fact, just 1 fish was found in that whole time. Meanwhile, down at Lake Pedder in 1996, we found 4 more Pedder Galaxids over that summer. Those 4 Galaxids were transferred to the Strathgordon water supply dam and put in a fish cage there. So we're in this situation where we had 1 fish at Lake Oberon that we weren't sure was either fish from breeding or one of the translocated fish, and we had 4 fish in a fish cage at Strathgordon Dam, and one of those fish actually died. So those last 3 fish were then translocated to Lake Oberon, and we just basically crossed our fingers and hoped that those and the 1 fish that we'd found would end up maintaining the population. Further survey we undertook at Lake Oberon in March 1997 that included some diving, some remote operated cameras, underwater cameras, and also some netting. Found a number of juveniles and a few adults. So at that time it looked like the population had begun to breed, and they continued on over the years to the point where our last survey at Lake Oberon back in 2012, we ended up, I think it was something like 300 odd fish overnight from the survey. So the population has actually reached a stable and robust situation at the moment, and we're really pleased that situation has occurred. We're now arrived at the point at the Strathgordon water supply dam where the population there has increased heaps. A typical survey there, we may find 200 or 300 fish for an overnight set of the traps we put in. So the population there has also arrived at a robust and stable situation. So now we have 2 populations, Lake Oberon and Strathgordon water supply dam, and together there's likely to be several thousand fish in both those populations. We're now at a point where the program has been running for 30 years. We've got two robust, stable populations, and monitoring has begun to become less and less. We're now at the point where we're about to take our last monitoring trip to Lake Oberon and also the Strathgordon Water Supply Dam. So positive results from those two surveys will basically see us draw a line under a 30-year program to save the species. At one point, we thought we probably had the last 3 fish in a fish cage. We've now arrived at a point where there are several thousand fish. So with a bit of luck and a lot of effort from a lot of people over a lot of years has resulted in saving this species from extinction.
And so there were no higher mountains, it's all in your hand. The valley was a future sea, and our sails the plan. And in this travel with no journey, I lose till I'm live, letting go of mine to have what I'm keeping now. Inside